My name is Rayanne Vest, and I'm 25 years old. If you met me now, badge clipped to my bag, laptop always within reach, you'd probably think my life unfolded neatly. Good job, stable relationship, wedding plans scattered across my kitchen counter like evidence of a future that finally feels solid. But there's a missing chapter in my life, a single hour that never ended. And it starts with something so small it almost sounds harmless. Can you watch her for an hour? I don't remember much from when I was little. Not clearly. What I remember are sensations, emotions that never fully faded. The sting of being grabbed too roughly. The sound of a voice snapping from bored to furious without warning. The feeling that love was conditional, fragile, and easily withdrawn. My biological mother, Anna, had me when she was 22. People say that like it explains everything. Like youth excuses abandonment. From the scraps of memory I still have, Anna was never gentle. She wasn't cruel every moment. But warmth? That was rare. If she held me, it felt obligatory, like she was counting seconds until she could put me down again. The clearest memory I have of her isn't a smile, it's her yelling. I don't even know what I did wrong. Maybe I cried too loudly. Maybe I spilled something. Maybe I just existed at the wrong time. Anna liked the idea of motherhood more than the reality of it. She loved attention. Parties, late nights, the version of life where responsibility could always be postponed. So she left me with other people, constantly. My grandparents, my Aunt Lisa, anyone willing to watch me while she disappeared into her own life. At first they helped, then they worried, then they pushed back. They told her, calmly at first, that they couldn't keep being her safety net, that she needed to step up. Anna took offense. She said they were judging her, that they didn't understand how hard things were, that she deserved breaks. And then came the day that changed everything. I was 4 years old. Anna walked me next door to our neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Collins. Mrs. Collins smelled like clean laundry and peppermint gum. Their living room was warm and cluttered in a comforting way. Anna knelt in front of me, smoothed my hair, smiled too brightly. "Just an hour," she said. "I'll be right back." Something in my chest tightened. Even at that age, I sensed patterns. I clung to her leg, confused and afraid. She gently pulled me off and handed me over like luggage. Then she walked out the door. She didn't come back. At first, the Collins weren't alarmed. They assumed traffic, a delay, a forgotten errand. Then the sun went down. Then midnight passed. Then morning came. They called Anna again and again. No answer. They drove past our house. Dark, empty. By the second day, Mrs. Collins was crying and apologizing to me, like it was somehow her fault. By the third day, they called Child Protective Services. Anna was gone. Adults moved fast after that. Meetings, paperwork, serious voices behind closed doors. I remember being handed crayons and worksheets while my entire world rearranged itself. That's when my Aunt Lisa stepped in. She didn't do it dramatically. No speeches, no grand declarations. She just showed up and stayed. She took my hand. She didn't yell. She didn't disappear. Lisa adopted me. And she made a choice that defined my childhood. She never let me feel like a second option. She raised me as her daughter. Not a burden, not a rescue project, just hers. I grew up believing Lisa was my real mom. My grandparents were simply grandparents. Our home was normal, safe. I lived with my cousin Jake, who was my age. We shared everything. Snacks, secrets, dumb childhood arguments. We were siblings in every way that mattered. Still, sometimes I felt something missing, a quiet gap I couldn't name. I didn't know why certain questions made my chest ache. Then I turned 18. I was in the attic looking for holiday decorations when I found a box of old documents. Inside were papers with my name on them. Adoption papers. My hands started shaking before my brain caught up. I brought them downstairs. Lisa took one look and went pale. That night, they told me the truth. About Anna, about the neighbors, about the hour that never ended. About CPS, about Lisa stepping in because she couldn't bear the thought of me being lost in the system. They said they hadn't told me earlier because they didn't want me growing up feeling unwanted. But once you know the truth, you can't unknow it. For a long time, I felt like my identity had cracked in half. Gratitude and anger lived side by side inside me. I loved Lisa more than ever, and resented the woman who gave birth to me for never fighting to stay. Eventually, life moved forward. I focused on school, on structure, on logic. I went into computer science because code made sense. Problems had solutions. Systems behaved predictably. People didn't. By 25, I had a solid career and a life I built piece by piece. And I had Ethan, my boyfriend, my fiancé. The man who proposed quietly, sincerely, without spectacle, like he understood that safety mattered more to me than surprise. He knew my past, not every detail, but enough to know why sudden loud voices made me tense, enough to respect my boundaries. Then one night my phone buzzed. A message request. I almost ignored it until I saw the name. Anna. My stomach dropped. Her message was long, carefully worded, full of regret. She said she'd thought about me every day, that she wanted to meet, to explain. I clicked her profile. She looked stable, happy, married, 2 little girls, a life that looked complete. She told me she didn't want me to come to her house because her husband, John, didn't know she had another child. Another child. Like I was a secret she'd sealed away. I was furious, but I was also curious, and curiosity can be dangerous. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop. Ethan offered to come with me. I told him I'd be okay, but he drove me anyway and waited nearby, just in case. The coffee shop smelled like burnt espresso. My hands shook around my cup. Then Anna walked in. Her face looked familiar in a way that made me uncomfortable. She cried the moment she saw me. "Rayanne," she whispered. She reached for my hands. I pulled away. "I want you to call me Mom," she said, too fast. We weren't even 5 minutes in. She talked about how proud she was of me, my career, my engagement. She sounded like she'd memorized my accomplishments. Then slowly, carefully, she steered the conversation toward money, toward how hard life was, how grateful she was that I was doing well. Something clicked. This wasn't a reunion. It was a setup. I set my cup down and stood up. "What do you want from me?" I asked. She insisted she only wanted a relationship, but her eyes told a different story. "I'm not your solution," I said, my voice shaking. "You don't get to abandon me, hide me from your real life, and then come back pretending you're proud." She cried. People stared. I walked out. Across the street, Ethan was already out of the car, arms open. I collapsed into him, shaking with anger and something colder, clarity. As we drove away, my phone buzzed. Another message from Anna, then another. And beneath the anger, a realization settled in. This was only the beginning. Anna didn't disappear after I walked out of the coffee shop. She multiplied. My phone lit up with messages so long they felt like essays, carefully structured, emotionally dense, filled with regret, justifications, and selective memories. Every message ended the same way. "Please, Rayanne, just one more conversation." I didn't reply. I told myself silence was clarity, that if I didn't engage, she'd eventually understand. I was wrong. Instead of backing off, Anna widened her reach. She started messaging my Aunt Lisa, then my grandparents, long emotional explanations about how she'd made mistakes but was trying to heal. She framed herself as a woman finally brave enough to face her past, as if accountability was something she deserved applause for. Lisa showed me the messages one evening, her jaw tight. "I told her to stop," she said. "I told her you've made your decision." My grandparents did the same. They were firm, protective, united in a way that reminded me I wasn't a child anymore. I was surrounded by people who chose me. But Anna didn't listen. Then she went after Jake. My cousin, my brother in everything but blood, called me one afternoon, his voice tense. "She showed up near my work," he said. "Didn't come inside, but she waited outside. Asked if I'd talk to you for her." My stomach dropped. That crossed something invisible but sacred. Jake had never asked for any of this. He'd grown up alongside me, watched me struggle with questions I didn't even know how to ask yet. Dragging him into this felt manipulative in a way I couldn't excuse. That night I cried, not loudly, not dramatically, just the quiet kind that leaves your chest sore. Ethan sat with me on the couch, one arm around my shoulders, the other holding my hand like an anchor. "She's not respecting your no," he said gently. "That matters." He suggested therapy, not because he thought something was wrong with me, but because this kind of resurfaced trauma didn't come with an instruction manual. So I started seeing Dr. Miller. He was calm, unassuming, the kind of therapist who listened more than he spoke. In our first session, I told him everything, from the hour with the neighbors to the coffee shop confrontation. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he said, "It's okay to grieve a parent you never had." That sentence hit harder than anything Anna had said. Through therapy, I started untangling the knot inside me, the guilt for rejecting her, the anger for being abandoned, the quiet fear that maybe I was being cruel by protecting myself. Then something unexpected happened. I got a message from John, Anna's husband. At first, I thought it was fake, or a trick, but his message was short and direct. "Hi, Rayanne. I just found out about you. I'm sorry to contact you like this, but I'd like to talk. No pressure. I didn't respond right away. I sat with it for hours, showing it to Ethan, then to Lisa. Lisa sighed. If you meet him, do it on your terms. So I did. We met at a cafe across town, not the same one. I needed distance from that place. John looked exhausted, older than his photos. He didn't smile when he saw me. I didn't know, he said immediately. About you? About what she did? He told me Anna had admitted everything after I walked out on her, that he'd been furious, not just about the secret, but about the way she'd handled contacting me. I can't defend her actions, he said. I won't try. There was something grounding about that. No manipulation, no guilt-tripping, just acknowledgement. I understand if you never want contact with her, he added. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. I left that meeting feeling oddly steadier, like I'd spoken to the one adult in Anna's life who wasn't trying to rewrite reality. That night, I wrote Anna a letter. Not a text, not a message she could interrupt or twist. A letter. I told her what it felt like to grow up with a hole in my story. How finding out I'd been abandoned made me question my worth for years. How her reaching out now, without respecting boundaries, was reopening wounds instead of healing them. I told her I needed space, real space, and that she was not to contact me, my family, or my workplace again. When I sent it, my hands shook, but afterward, something inside me loosened. For the first time since that coffee shop, things went quiet. Weeks passed, then months. I focused on work, on wedding planning, on therapy sessions where I learned that forgiveness didn't mean access, and that peace didn't require reconciliation. I started to believe the story was finally settling. Then my phone buzzed. A message from a name I didn't recognize, but the profile photo made my breath catch. One of Anna's children, my half-sibling, and the message began with words that felt like a punch to the chest. How can you be so selfish? I hadn't even finished reading before I knew whatever was coming next was going to change everything. I stared at the message until the words blurred. How can you be so selfish? My heart started racing before I even finished reading the rest. I felt that old, familiar sensation, the one I thought I'd outgrown, like I was about to be scolded for something I didn't understand yet. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone heavy in my hands, and forced myself to read on. The message was long, desperate, accusatory. It was from Anna's oldest daughter, my half-sister. She wrote about fear, about hospitals, about waiting lists and medical jargon that never sounded good no matter how gently doctors tried to explain it. Then came the line that knocked the air out of me. Our mom needs a kidney transplant. I felt sick. According to her, Anna had been sick for a while. Chronic issues, worsening numbers, doctors saying soon in that ominous way that really meant now or never. They were running out of options, and apparently running out of donors. The message accused me of ignoring Anna's attempts to reconnect, of punishing her when time was running out, of standing by while their mother's life hung in the balance. Not once did she acknowledge the abandonment. Not once did she ask how I felt. The implication was clear. I was supposed to save her. I set the phone down and pressed my palms to my eyes, trying to breathe. For weeks, I'd convinced myself Anna's sudden reappearance had been about guilt, about closure, about making peace with the past. This rewrote everything. I showed Ethan the message when he got home. He read it once, then again, his jaw tightening. That's not okay, he said carefully. It's not even coming from her, I whispered. She sent her kid. The realization settled like ice in my chest. Anna hadn't even had the courage to ask me herself. She'd let her child do it, weaponizing fear and loyalty in a way that felt unforgivable. I needed answers. So I agreed to meet Anna again. Same coffee shop, same table. She arrived early this time, hands folded like she was waiting for a verdict. She looked thinner, paler. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed the frailty was genuine. I didn't sit down right away. Is it true? I asked. She hesitated, then nodded. I didn't want you to find out like that. But you let me, I said. She started talking about doctors, about prognosis, about how scared she was. She cried again, just like before. But when I pressed her, when I asked directly if she hoped I'd be a donor, she went quiet. Then she nodded. I was hoping, she admitted. You're young, healthy. It would mean everything. I felt something inside me fracture. You planned this, I said. You reached out because you needed something from my body. That's not fair, she whispered. It's exactly fair. I told her how wrong it was to involve her children, how cruel it was to frame my refusal as selfishness when she'd walked away from me without looking back. She kept saying she was sorry, that she was desperate, that she didn't know how else to ask. By the time I left, I was shaking with exhaustion. That week, I talked endlessly with Dr. Miller. We discussed obligation, biology, consent, the difference between a moral choice and coerced sacrifice. You're allowed to say no, he told me, even when the stakes are high. After days of reflection, I made my decision. I wouldn't even get tested, because a choice made under pressure isn't a choice at all. I sent Anna a short message explaining my decision and asking again for space. She didn't respond. For a moment, I thought maybe this was the end. I should have known better. Because desperation doesn't shrink quietly. It escalates. And Anna was just getting started. The call came 3 days later. I was at work, halfway through debugging a stubborn line of code, when my phone lit up with Anna's name. I stared at it until the buzzing stopped. Then it rang again. And again. By the fourth call, my chest felt tight. I stepped into the stairwell and answered. "Rayanne," Anna said, breathless, "please don't hang up." I didn't speak. "I've been thinking," she continued, "and John and I, we wanted to talk to you together." Before I could respond, another voice joined the line. "John, we just want to explore options," he said, calm, measured, like he was leading a meeting instead of discussing my organs. That's when Anna said it. "We're willing to compensate you." I blinked. "What?" "Financially," she clarified quickly. "Whatever makes you comfortable." For a moment, I honestly thought I'd misheard. "You're offering to buy my kidney," I said flatly. They launched into it like they'd rehearsed. Numbers, hypotheticals, how this could set me up, how the risks were minimal, how this was a win-win. My stomach churned. "You abandoned me," I said, "and now you're treating my body like a resource." Anna started crying again. "You're my blood." "My blood," I snapped, "isn't currency." I ended the call before they could say another word. I stood there in the stairwell, shaking, phone hot in my hand, trying to understand how we'd gotten here. That night, Ethan held me while I cried, not just from anger, but from the clarity that settled over me like a heavy blanket. She hadn't come back because she loved me. She came back because she needed me. The next escalation hit a week later. My boss called me into his office. His expression was careful. "Rayanne," he said, "I got a concerning call. Anna." She'd found his contact information and told him I was unstable, that I had substance abuse issues, that I was unreliable, a liability. I felt physically ill. I told him everything. The abandonment, the kidney, the call. He listened quietly, then leaned back. "I believe you," he said, "but this is serious." I contacted a lawyer that afternoon. Defamation, harassment, tortious interference. Hearing the legal terms made it real in a way I wasn't prepared for. This wasn't emotional chaos anymore. This was warfare. We drafted a cease and desist letter. I warned Anna, formally, that any further contact would be met with legal action. For a few days, everything was silent. Then I decided to do something I never thought I would. I went public. I wrote everything, carefully, factually, and posted it online. Not to shame her, not to get revenge, but to take control of the narrative. The response was overwhelming. Messages from strangers, stories that mirrored mine, support that reminded me I wasn't cruel for choosing myself. But Anna didn't retreat. She never did, because a week later, there was a knock on my door. The knock came just after 8. Ethan and I had finally settled into one of those rare, quiet evenings. Music low, dishes drying on the rack, the kind of calm that feels earned. I remember thinking, this is what peace sounds like. Then the knock cut through it, sharp, insistent. Not a neighbor's casual tap, not a delivery. This was deliberate. Ethan looked at me. I felt it immediately in my gut, that cold, sinking certainty that tells you something is wrong before your brain catches up. I walked to the door and checked the peephole. Anna and John, standing on my doorstep like they belonged there. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. "I don't want to open it," I whispered. "You don't have to," Ethan said instantly, already stepping closer, grounding me. But something in me, anger maybe, or the need for finality, pushed my hand forward anyway. I opened the door halfway. "What are you doing here?" I asked. Anna burst into tears immediately. Not the quiet kind, the performative kind, the kind meant to disarm. "We just want to talk," she said. "Please, just a few minutes." John stood beside her, nodding, arms crossed, like he was there to enforce something. "You were told not to contact me," I said. My voice was steady, even though my hands weren't. "This includes showing up at my home." "We needed to apologize properly," Anna insisted. "We've been in therapy. We've changed." Changed. I'd heard that word so many times it felt hollow. She launched into a speech, how much she regretted everything, how sick she was, how she wanted to make things right before it was too late. John chimed in, backing her up, talking about growth and accountability like buzzwords from a self-help podcast. I let them finish. Then I said, "You need to leave." Anna froze. "Rayanne?" "No," I said, "now." John stepped forward. "Let's not be dramatic," he said. "We drove all this way." Something snapped. "You are trespassing," I said. "You were warned. This conversation is over." Anna started sobbing louder. John didn't move. My chest tightened, not with fear, but with a strange, burning resolve. I pulled my phone out. "If you don't leave right now," I said, "I'm calling the police." John scoffed. "You wouldn't." I did. My hands shook as I explained to the dispatcher that 2 people were refusing to leave my property, that I felt unsafe, that there was a history. The police arrived faster than I expected. The moment they stepped onto the porch, John finally backed off. Anna tried to play the victim. Tears, shaking voice, words like misunderstanding and family. It didn't work. The officers were calm but firm. They told Anna and John they needed to leave immediately and not return. Watching them walk away felt surreal. When the door finally closed, the silence was deafening. I slid down against it, heart racing, adrenaline crashing. Ethan knelt in front of me, hands on my knees. "You did the right thing." I nodded, but it took days for my body to believe it. That incident changed something. It wasn't just emotional anymore. It was about safety. I moved forward with the restraining order. My lawyer filed everything. Messages, call logs, the workplace interference, the unannounced visit. Reliving it all was brutal, but there was power in documenting the truth. I also kept the blog post up. The support kept coming. Strangers telling me I wasn't heartless, that boundaries weren't cruelty, that blood didn't entitle someone to your body, your peace, or your future. Not everyone agreed. There were trolls, people who thought I should be the bigger person, people who said, "But she's your mother." They didn't live in my body. They didn't carry that hour with them. Therapy helped me unpack something important. Forgiveness isn't access. Closure doesn't require reconciliation. And protecting yourself isn't a failure of compassion. It's an act of survival. Anna hasn't contacted me since. I don't know how her health is, and for the first time, I've accepted that I don't need to know. What I do know is this. I have a life built on people who stayed. A mother who chose me when she didn't have to. A partner who stands between me and chaos without hesitation. A future that doesn't require sacrificing myself to save someone who never tried to save me.